The U.S.'s aim is to destroy Erdoğan, criticizing the U.S.'s strategy for Turkey, and saying that the anti-Erdoğan street movements are Atlantic-driven. Doğu Perinçek stated that Özgür has been highlighted as a new target. Vatan Party Chairman Doğu Perinçek said that the background of the U.S.'s Turkey strategy and that they have had an impact on directing the street movements that have been experienced in recent years. In his recent statements discussing how opposition to Tayyip Erdoğan has an effect on unconscious crowds, he warned that we are in a dangerous game for the future of the country. Perinçek, who emphasized that the difference between Tayyip Erdoğan and Özgür is only a difference in the front, said that the street movements are shaped under the Atlantic guidance and made the following statements. The difference is the difference in the front in the U.S.'s strategy. Tayyip Erdoğan is still the ruler who will be overthrown. Özgür is the new favorite to be placed in the seat of power. In the face of these facts, putting Tayyip Erdoğan and Özgür in the same bag with crude excuses such as they are both pro-American has no equivalent in life. The difference is not any difference, but a difference in the front. There are forces with different intentions within the unconscious crowds. However, the position that unites them all is the position where consciousness is locked on to hostility towards Tayyip Erdoğan. For this reason, we made the following observation with the message we published on social media on the day the mass movement started. The hostility towards Tayyip Erdoğan blinds the eyes of the unconscious crowds. They neither see corruption, nor that they have fallen into the same ranks as separatism, nor that they have been dragged into the position of extras in the Atlantic plans. This message of ours has received over 3 million views. The fact that unconscious crowds are fixated on hostility towards Tayyip Erdoğan is seen as a positive attitude by some intellectuals, because they themselves are also prisoners of hostility towards Tayyip Erdoğan. The shackles in their minds have also blinded their eyes. The power that determines hostility against Tayyip Erdoğan. There are various reasons for hostility towards Tayyip Erdoğan. Everyone sees this fact. However, is this positioning today the positioning that will lead Turkey to salvation, independence, integrity, and a production-oriented economy? In fact, it is enough to look at the power that has determined hostility towards Tayyip Erdoğan as a strategic goal to answer the question. In the famous 260-page report titled The Nationalist Course in Turkey, published in January 2020, the U.S. deep state announced the strategic plan aimed at overthrowing Tayyip Erdoğan. Moreover, this plan has been implemented since the end of 2013. The Fethulahist Gladio was mobilized for this purpose. The July 15 to 16, 2016 coup attempt was set up with this aim and blood was shed. The U.S. could not stop Turkey in the Euphrates Shield operations that started on August 26, 2016, and later in the Olive Branch and Peace Spring operations. The enemy table of the NATO exercise held in Norway on November 8 to 17, 2017 included photographs of Tayyip Erdoğan and Ataturk. The fact that Tayyip Erdoğan turned to policies compatible with the U.S. before the 2023 elections did not fundamentally change the attitude of the Washington administration. The fact that U.S. imperialism focused on the Eastern Mediterranean after Trump's election has brought the policies targeting the Tayyip Erdoğan administration back to date. The U.S. blacklists Tayyip Erdoğan's efforts to disarm the PKK, to direct Ahmet Shar towards the integrity of Syria, to retain the Iron Fist option in northern Syria, and his stance against Israel are not being well received by the globalist powers of the U.S. and Europe. The fact that the U.S. and European press keep Tayyip Erdoğan on the dictator blacklist along with Putin, Xi Jinping, Khamenei, Maduro, Orban, and Lukashenko is a common stance of the Atlantic states. The Western press has constantly accused Tayyip Erdoğan of being a brand stifter and a dictator who will turn Turkey into a bloodbath. The security documents of the Israeli government and Mossad determine that Turkey is a greater threat than Iran. An official from the Israeli Parliament's Foreign Affairs and Defense Commission declared Erdogan's Turkey as an enemy state just a week ago. Tayyip Erdoğan's shift to policies compatible with the U.S. after 2023 did not deter the U.S. from its goal of overthrowing Tayyip Erdoğan. The support from across the ocean to the latest street movement led by the CHP administration shows that the strategy determined in the 2020 Deep State report continues. The only thing that has changed is that will the goal of bringing Ekrem İmamoğlu to power in Turkey was determined in the 2020 Rand Corporation report. The needle has recently turned to Özgür Özel, one of the CIA chiefs, in a message he recently published on social media. While talking about liberating Turkey, he capitalizes the letter G and points to Özgür Özel in the U.S. strategy. Tayyip Erdoğan is still the ruler to be overthrown. Özgür Özel is the new favorite to be placed in the seat of power. In the face of these facts, putting Tayyip Erdoğan and Özgür Özel in the same bag with crude excuses such as they are, both pro-American has no equivalent in life. The difference is not any difference, but a difference in front. Factors in the participation of various elements. In addition to blind hostility towards Tayyip Erdoğan, it is also seen that economic hardship and economic problems in general are effective in the participation of the masses in the street movement. The elements that parties such as the Y Party and the Zafer Party have directed to the streets are acting with memories of the old Gladio period. Meryl Achner's Gladio. Duties with connections to the USA and Israel are being continued by these parties. Under today's conditions, the fake left has burst onto the scene with the understanding of where there is movement, there is abundance. As will be recalled, Bernstein rejected the importance of the revolutionary program and strategy within the scientific socialist movement at the beginning of the 20th century with the understanding of movement is everything, the target is nothing, and was among those who led the social democratic turncoat within the Turkish left. Uncontrolled organizations have also been dragged from the tail end of the PKK to the pawns of Atlantic-guided movements under the name of activism. Street is a magic word for them. The creative destruction that the U.S. deep state directly uses to direct mass movements has been on the lips of pseudo-left organizations for a while now. They have become tools of global destruction. The front contrast between the street movement and the Gezi movement. Some draw similarities between the Gezi movement that started in June 2013 and today's Atlantic-guided street movement. However, the channels these movements entered and the positions they settled in are not only different, they are also opposites. The Gezi movement started as a position to protect the green. The movement included elements under Atlantic control as well as forces against imperialism. The Homeland Party took over the leadership during the development process of the Gezi movement. On July 7, 2013, 1.5 million patriots attended the Gazi'nin Adam rally in Kadıköy, the peak of the Gezi movement, with Turkish flags in their hands. The large mass stretching from Kadıköy to Moda had united on a line defending independence against U.S. imperialism. This leadership, supported by the movements in Anatolia, also fought against the U.S. Ergenekon scheme and later demolished the U.S. Silivri Wall. No possibility of directing the Atlanticist street movement to a national purpose. We also have to evaluate the question of whether there is a possibility of seizing the leadership of the mass movement directed by the Atlanticists. All the data show that there is no such possibility because the movement has entered a certain bed under the guidance of the U.S. There is number national or pro-labor factor among the reasons and goals of the movement. The movement, which is carried out on the basis of hostility towards Tayyip Erdoğan, directs the masses to the target shown by the U.S.